This is Needy and Normal. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear: meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. You're not needy. It's normal. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Needy and Normal. I'm actually saying welcome back to myself as well. If you notice the dates, I have skipped a week, which is not my norm, but I totally did it on purpose because it is currently the summertime. Kids are out of school. There's a very rare moment in the baseball season, Major League Baseball season. If you follow along, you know my husband works for the Milwaukee Brewers, so he is very busy. And so that rare moment in the middle of the season comes in July. It's called the All-Star break, where we get 4 days with him. Sometimes a little less, depending on if there's travel at the end. But this All-Star break, we actually got some real family time, which is really important to us. It's very sacred. We're very protective of it. And this year, it was really special because not only did we get to take a little trip together out to Los Angeles, but that happened to work out with right at the end of the All-Star break. The Brewers played the Dodgers. And at the same time, we have a new family member. Our niece, Sloan, was born. Woo! My sister, Lindsay, and her husband, Sean, welcomed their second baby. Sorry, sis, I have to. I'm so excited about it. So they have little Bryn, and she's 3.5, and now they have Sloan. So there's girls in the family, sisters, which I think is cool. I know my sister does too, because obviously we're sisters, so now she has a pair of sisters. So it's really neat. We got to do a combo of like a beach family vacation, the 4 of us, in Hermosa Beach, which is a spot we really love. And then we got to meet the baby, and we had places to stay, and then what was also nice is my sister had a birthday while we were in town, and I honestly don't remember the last time I was with my sister physically on her birthday. And so it was really special to welcome the baby, have some real family time, have extra family time with my immediate family, and hold a brand new baby and celebrate a birthday. So it was a really nice time. And before that, we had some other travel. And so it's been busy, but like in the most purposeful way. And it's been wonderful. And we were also ready to be home. And I'm pretty sure my husband could use another All-Star break where he actually does nothing. So he's got to find his breaks whenever he possibly can, because it is a very full schedule. He broadcasts every single game. Rarely does he get a day off unless the whole team gets a day off. So we really captured our family time, and I decided, let's skip a week. It'll be okay. If you've missed me, hello. We did do something different. The last 3 episodes were with guests. So if you're catching up, that was different. I was just playing, thinking, hey, let's see if 3 in a row is exciting. Maybe I'll start changing the format a bit and do every other episode with a guest, or every 2. But typically I do a guest every 4th episode, and otherwise you hear from me solo. So I would really love your feedback. If you have a comment, a question, a thought, or an opinion about how the show has been going, the format, honestly, any feedback would be great. Go to Needy Normal Pod on Instagram. Send me a DM. I would love to hear what you think. I would love to hear if you have topics of suggestion, guests to suggest. Maybe you'd like to be a guest, but get involved. Let me know what you think. I would really, really love your feedback. So thank you for coming back to me after missing that 1 week. I'm excited to be back. And this week's episode is going to be about empathy and why we need empathy. I mean, let's be honest. We live in a bit of a cruel, selfish world. There's a lot of sadness and unhealthy things going on around us. And so empathy is useful in a million ways. I am going to mention a few key places in your life, my life too, where it's especially useful But the more we can at least build empathy and a kind world around us, our immediate world with our personal networks and personal relationships, professional relationships, basically the people that you interact with on a daily basis, the more compassion and empathy we can enter into our own personal world, the better our chances are for that leaking into spaces beyond us. And we could use some of that compassion and that overall empathy and self compassion as well, which I'll touch on. And that's one of the things I promote as a life coach and as a person talking about needs and what matters for us to function as well, healthy people is to tend to those needs, and oftentimes we need to tend and or help tend to others' needs and look out for each other. So we need a great deal of self-compassion, and we also need a great deal of empathy to have good relationships and better communication and just cooperation and kindness and overall mental well-being. Empathy certainly plays its role in many places in our lives. It's great in leadership. You've heard more and more how if there's a little bit of vulnerability within our leadership and opening up about things, there is more space for empathy, and it can strengthen your role as a leader, and it can strengthen the relationship you might have to someone who is the leader in your profession or in your life. So I'm going to walk through some really essential moments where empathy is important. And the more empathy we create for our worlds, the higher our chances are for infiltrating a little bit of our sad world and making it a little lighter and more compassionate and more connected and more kind. And I've talked about kindness before earlier in the episodes here, but essentially, it's a way to connect anytime, any day with anyone, and you never know who could use some kindness, some compassion, some empathy. So, number one, empathy is crucial in strengthening relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship, a relationship with a parent or child, or in a professional manner. It is a way to ensure the relationship is healthy when you can better understand one another and understand each other's needs and perspectives and emotions. And it really does foster a deeper connection when the element of empathy is present. And it can allow for the validation and the support that the people need in a relationship. We all need that. And in a professional setting, it can help build your team and your connection and collaboration when there's relatability and stories told and understanding given. It is really a fantastic tool to ensure working well together. So whether, like I said, it's professional or a family member or a romantic relationship, it can really offer that deeper understanding that can help strengthen a relationship and strengthen cooperation and communication. So communication is key. When you are having a conversation, like put yourself at a party, and whether you're talking to a really good friend or someone you just met, oftentimes you're going to have an empathetic moment where someone's telling a story and you immediately think, oh, how can I relate to this? Or how can I offer compassion or empathy? Now, we all know the people who are so busy thinking about what they're going to add to the conversation and what story they need to bring up to connect to whatever the person is saying, that they miss whatever the person is saying. So when you're utilizing empathy in communication, it does need to be selfless to an extent. You're listening to this person tell a story. I mean, for all we know, they're telling this deeply personal, vulnerable story. Perhaps they lost somebody or something hurtful happened to them and they're sharing this. And instead of jumping directly into, oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about, that happened to me, and that happened to my friend, that happened to my neighbor, and blah, 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 blah. While that's nice to connect to what the other person is saying, empathy And true compassion means that you're staying present with the person and what they're talking about. If you want to bring up a topic that you can connect to in your own experience or a story of somebody's that feels relevant, fine, that's cool. I get that, but come back to their story, right? This is one of the things I've learned in coaching. Sometimes I'll offer a personal anecdote, a personal relatable moment, or a story of another client. To connect to what is being talked about in the conversation, but I'm careful to come back to them because empathy is about feeling and understanding somebody else's experiences and thoughts, right? So I guess that's a bit of a warning. Feel free to be compassionate and empathetic during a conversation, but make sure if you're going to connect to something personally and share that, come back to that person's personal experience so that you can show kindness and empathy. Now, when there is a certain empathetic motivation behind getting things done and just working with people and being around others, it can really help encourage tolerance and understanding and understand that everyone is entitled and allowed to own their own experiences. I wish I could remember who gave me that line, but we are all allowed to own our own experiences. So part of empathy is saying, hey, I see what you're going through. I understand your perspective, or I'd like to understand your perspective. It can create that well-rounded view of others' perspectives, so therefore you can work better together. And it's not so one-sided. It's more collaborative, and that works in a family, that works in a business, and it creates a more social environment, more motivation, things can get done. So instead of battling or arguing about whose experience is more valid, it's trying to, and verbally, trying to see the other person's point of view and try and come together to find common ground and shared goals. And empathy is really important in that, because then it's not just about your thoughts and your experiences. You're including the other person's thoughts and experiences and coming together to see how can we make this work. I've worked with lots of clients who have come to me because of difficult people. They don't understand, they don't listen, they're not seeing my perspective. So they get kind of surprised when I say, well, how about you? Do you see their perspective? Do you try and understand them? How can you show them what you would like to feel or see from them? So often we'll end up going through this big lesson, and how can you show your own compassion and kindness and empathy with other people, especially the difficult ones, to try and hopefully get them to see a different way to operate, a different way to tackle things. And if it doesn't work, then obviously there's another course of action. That's a whole conflict resolution situation. But sometimes we have to look at ourselves first and think, well, okay, how am I being compassionate, empathetic, understanding, asking to understand another person's experience or perspective in order to make progress, in order to, cooperate better as a team instead of looking at somebody else as the problem. A lot of times we have to look at ourselves and think, how can I take responsibility in this situation first, which then can open up a whole new door to making things work better, because we do have to look at ourselves when we're in certain situations, to change things. A lot of times looking in sometimes helps us deal with things on the outside. So it also offers, and this is something you can gift right directly to yourself with the self-compassion and self-empathy, but it offers a way to connect your mental well-being. When you're stressed and you're anxious and feeling disconnected, or you name it, when things are in question, you're wondering about your self-worth, you're not so sure what direction to go in or how to wrap your head around a certain conflict that you're dealing with, lots of negative things can be looked at differently when there's a dose of empathy involved, or when you ask for some empathy. There's always going to be someone to connect to offer a level of experience or perspective that's going to help you feel better. And that's where that validation and that support comes in. But sometimes we need that. We need to ask for support. We need to ask for empathy. And sometimes we need to just notice the empathy and the compassion that surrounds us if someone's offering that validation and that support and that loving hand. and that compassion that we need. If we're going through a hard time and you push it all away and get stubborn and controlling and think, I can do this, I'll be fine, everything's fine. Sometimes the dose of reality that we need most is that, hey, you could probably use some compassion, and often we're hard to give it to ourselves, but somewhere out there, a friend, a loved one, a coworker, somebody is willing to be compassionate towards you, to show you that empathy, to show you that kindness. And it could be the turning point you need for everything to be better, that switch that needs to go on for you to think differently about a situation, or to be told you can do this. If you're trying to make decisions and someone has a story to share that's, you know what, I've been in your shoes. This is what that experience felt like for me. This is what I did. I can see you're going through this alone. How can I help? What can I do? And so that's a great example of, I'm going to share my experience with you, but then I'm going to bring it back to you so I can show you kindness and empathy and offer support, validation of your feelings, and be there for you. A lot of times we need an empathetic person to remind us that we're not alone. So it does promote overall mental well-being to have empathy in your life, whether it's from someone else, but we also need to give it to ourselves. Now, if you're in a leadership position, or you are an employee where you have a boss, a manager, somebody that is leading your team, it's important to have empathy in that arena as well, because when leaders demonstrate empathy, it can build a more positive work environment. It can build more loyal relationships with their employees. It allows leaders to understand the needs and motivations of their team members and focus on productivity and morale in a different way. And leaders who lack empathy may struggle to connect to their team members. That's where you might have difficult people to deal with. I've had clients come to me and say, my boss is so hard to work for. They might be lacking in empathy. And, I don't mean if someone comes to their boss and says, I'm like kind of off today, I need to just leave. And the boss is going to say, oh, I totally understand. I've had off days too. Now, while that can be part of the conversation, it doesn't mean you can go home and whatever. That's not exactly productive empathy. There's a way to offer validation and understanding, but as a leader, you can also lead. So the conversation might go, hey, I understand that you're having an off day. If there's anything you want to talk about, I'm here. But let's also talk about how you can, maintain productivity and get back on track. And if there's anything I can do to support you, let's do it. I'm here. Or if there's somebody on the team that can help you, let's do that. My point being, empathy is vital. It's important in social situations. It's important in professional situations. It's productive. And it helps us not feel alone, and we all could use a little of that. I hope this was helpful. I want to help you connect to your own needs and normalize them. It's normal to have needs. It's normal to not know all the answers sometimes. But what I've always tried to promote, and I will always encourage, is that your needs matter because you matter. So share this episode with a friend. Come back next week. Thanks for being here. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. Go back and listen to older episodes and find your favorite. Please leave me a rating and a review before you go. I would so appreciate it. The Needy and Normal podcast is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching. You can follow ABL Life Coaching and Needy and Normal Pod both on Instagram. And if you're interested in coaching, check out ablifecoaching.com.